when the mountain bandits attacked, my brother and my childhood sweetheart both shielded me, but my adopted sister was injured by the bandits. Afterward, the two of them fought fiercely, blaming each other. My childhood sweetheart asked my brother with a dark expression, "A few days ago, when you were seriously ill, it was Yin Yin who risked her life to find the medicine that saved you. I thought that after this, you would finally accept her and wouldn't forget about her in a life or death situation, but I never expected that, from beginning to end, you only had your own blood sister in your eyes and heart." After hearing this, my brother was stunned for a long time, and his eyes immediately filled with deep regret. He spoke hoarsely, "When danger struck just now, didn't you also rush to protect Shu Yarrow first?" Hearing my brother mention me, my childhood sweetheart curled his lips in a light, mocking smile. "Yin Yin has always wanted you, her brother, to accept her. I just thought that if you protected her, she would be happy, so I took the opportunity to protect Shu Yarrow. Otherwise, who would really want to save her?" When Jiyu Qingyang, my childhood friend, said this, I happened to be standing at the doorway holding a bowl of medicine. Meeting my gaze, his expression froze for a moment, and he instinctively began to explain, "Shu Yao, that's not what I meant." I didn't speak. My mother stepped out of the main hall, and the entire courtyard fell silent in an instant. Her gaze swept over my childhood friend, then over me, before finally settling heavily on my elder brother. "You can't even protect your own sister. Go to the backyard and accept your punishment. For as long as I can remember, my mother has been stationed at the border with my father, and her authority always carried a sharp edge. I thought when Muchuan would argue back as he always had, insisting that I was his only sister from beginning to end, but he didn't. He simply remained silent and walked away. As he passed by me, I instinctively called out softly, 'Elder brother.' He didn't stop, nor did he look back. Watching his figure disappear beyond the courtyard gate, I suddenly understood he was regretting it, regretting that he had stood in front of me that day. The physician said when Yin had woken up, "Madam, fortunately the young lady's wound is not deep. After bandaging, she only needs to rest quietly for a few days." Upon hearing this, the cold severity on Mother's face dissipated like a thin mist blown away by the wind, and her brows and eyes instantly softened. She turned and headed straight for the west wing. Not long after, faint sounds came from the west wing, Mother personally holding a medicine bowl, feeding Wen Yin spoonful by spoonful, her voice so soft as if afraid of disturbing something. "Drink slowly, be careful, it's hot. Does the wound still hurt? Mother has had someone stew the bird's nest porridge you love. It will be brought over shortly." Mother, she referred to herself as Mother. I lowered my eyes, suddenly unable to recall when Mother last spoke to me like that. When Yin lay against the headboard, her face pale but her eyes bright, she looked past Mother toward me at the doorway and asked with concern, "Elder sister, are you unharmed?" I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, my mother glanced at me calmly. "Don't say you're not hurt. Even if you were, as the legitimate daughter of a military family, you shouldn't adopt the delicate ways of the noble ladies in the capital." I nodded and turned back to my room. The window was open, and the lamplight from the west wing filtered through, faintly illuminating my mother's silhouette. She sat by the bed, gently stroking Wen Yin's hair. The candlelight was a bit harsh, and my eyes stung slightly. For some reason, I felt as though she and my mother were the real mother and daughter. Wen Yin's biological father was once my father's deputy general. During that battle, he died on the battlefield while covering my mother's retreat. Before he died, he clutched my mother's sleeve and said he had a wife and daughter at home, begging her to look after them in the future. My mother agreed. After the war subsided, she went to search for them herself, and finally found Wen Yin in a dilapidated village temple. Upon inquiry, she learned that Wen Yin's mother had long since abandoned her and run away. My mother picked Wen Yin up. At that time, the border was thousands of miles away from the capital, yet she kept Wen Yin by her side and raised her day by day. Meanwhile, far away in the capital, I had no idea that my mother already had a daughter who could replace me by her side. I eagerly await her return home with father and brother every day. Every time a messenger arrives in the capital, I am the first to rush out and ask, Did mother say when she will be back? Did mother bring anything for me? In the year I turned 12, my mother, who had been away from me for 2 whole years, finally returned home. The nanny said that mother had suffered many ailments from years of campaigning with father on the frontier, and this time she would not be leaving again that day. I stood at the entrance of the mansion early in the morning, waiting. I thought she would be like before, dismounting her horse and lifting me high into her arms, asking how much I had grown, what friends I had made at school, and whether I had listened well to the nanny. I waited for a long time. She finally appeared at the end of the lane, followed by brother and a little girl. Holding the little girl's hand, she walked up to me and said, "Shuyao, from now on, Yin Yin will be your younger sister. She has had a difficult life, so you must always be considerate and yield to her in everything." From then on, whenever new jewelry, clothes, calligraphy, or paintings were added to the household, Wen Yin always got to pick first, and I could only choose from what was left. Later on, when Wen Yin and I both failed to complete our homework, mother merely urged her gently a few times, but what fell upon me was a heavy slap on the hand. When Wen Yin and I returned late from school after playing around, mother only asked her softly where she had been, while I had to stand in the scorching sun for a full hour, holding my textbooks as punishment. I didn't understand. We had made the same mistakes, so why were the punishments different? Until I went crying to ask my wet nurse. My wet nurse patted my head and said, "Silly child, you are the only legitimate young lady of the general's manor. The madam is strict with you because she values you more." I believed it. Like a drowning person clutching at a floating log, I desperately convinced myself my mother did not love me less. It was precisely because she valued me that she was so strict with me. After that, I no longer indulged in play. Day after day, I reviewed my tutor's lessons, mastering music, chess, calligraphy, and painting until the teacher said, "There is nothing more to teach." I thought that as long as I was good enough, excellent enough, and made her proud enough, my mother would return to how she used to be. Until today, when the servants in the manor reported that we had encountered bandits on the road, my mother hurried back, and her first words were, "Is anyone injured?" The servants answered in a clamor, with someone misspeaking, "The second young lady is fine," but the eldest young lady was stabbed in the shoulder by the assailant. I saw my mother's expression. She froze for a moment, then let out a sigh of relief. In that instant, it gently pierced the lie I had told myself for years. I had repeatedly comforted myself, thinking that even if my mother had no place for me in her eyes, at least I still had my elder brother, who treated me best in the world. He had argued with my mother on my behalf more than once. "Mother, Shuyao is your own daughter. How can you be so biased toward an outsider?" Back then, when you and father went to the border, leaving my sister alone in the capital, the children at the academy mocked her as an unwanted wild child and isolated her everywhere. After you found out, you cried all night, saying you would make it up to her when you returned. Have you forgotten all that? That time, mother was furious and immediately administered family discipline to him on the spot. After 20 strokes of the rod, his back was bleeding, yet he didn't utter a sound, only coldly stating, "In this lifetime, I have only one younger sister, Shuyao. I do not acknowledge anyone else." Since then, no matter how deliberately Wen Yin tried to please him or how much she feigned weakness, elder brother remained cold and indifferent, never showing her the slightest kindness. I always believed that elder brother would forever stand by my side, protecting and trusting me. If I hadn't witnessed that scene with my own eyes when Muchuan went to visit Wen Yin, she was looking up at him and saying, "Brother Muchuan, you don't have to blame yourself for not saving Yina." In the past, whenever Wen Yin called him elder brother, she would be sternly reprimanded, so she had always addressed him as Brother Muchuan. Her voice inside the room was very soft. If sister were injured, Brother Muchuan would surely be sad, and Yin Yin doesn't want to make him sad. Fortunately, sister ended up unharmed, so it's fine even if Yin Yin gets a little hurt. When Muchuan listened, his eyelids trembling slightly, after a long silence, he spoke hoarsely, "Silly little sister." When Yin looked up in disbelief at first, then her eyes turned red. "Brother, are you willing to call me your sister?" He bent down and gently stroked her head, just as he had ruffled my hair countless times before. "I'm sorry, Yin Yin, In the past, I listened to Xiao's instigation and misunderstood you, which is why I didn't treat you well. From now on, I will make it up to you properly." I stood outside the door, feeling the blood in my body gradually turn cold and solidify. My brother actually believed Wen Yin's words. I had told him many times before how Wen Yin pretended to be obedient in front of our mother, only to turn around and frame me for bullying her. Now, in his eyes, all these things have become my deliberate instigation, so he had long stopped believing me. A few days ago, when he was seriously ill and bedridden, the physician said the prescription was missing a rare medicinal ingredient, and without it, there was no cure. That ingredient couldn't be found in any pharmacy in the capital, so I ventured alone into the black market and, by chance, encountered a foreign merchant. He said I had the rarest yin blood in the world, and in the end, I exchanged a bowl of my blood for that life-saving medicinal ingredient. Afraid that my mother would blame me for sneaking into the black market, I quietly placed the medicinal herbs in my brother's room without saying a word. Later, I lost too much blood and fell unconscious. When I woke up, the entire household was spreading the story of how Wen Yin, in order to save my brother, risked her life to seek medicine in the black market. I don't know how Wen Yin found out about my search for medicine. I only remember later, when I went to find my brother, I explained the whole story to him in detail. He remained silent for a long time before calmly saying, "I understand." At the time, I naively thought that he was simply exhausted from his recent recovery and didn't want to say much. It never occurred to me that he had already believed Wen Yin, thinking that I was just putting on a show afterward to steal credit and seek favor. The birthday gift Wen Muchuan gave me was a hairpin he had carved himself, designed in the shape of a white magnolia flower. He said my birthday happened to fall on the day when magnolias bloom. I had looked forward to it for 3 whole months, but now, this hairpin was tucked into Wen Yin's hair. She was sitting under the corridor, basking in the sun, and the sunlight fell on the hairpin, making the petals of the white magnolia glow with a gentle light. Noticing my gaze, Wen Yin raised her hand as if unintentionally smoothing her hair, her face showing a mix of surprise and delight. "Sister, I heard that this is the birthday gift brother prepared for you over several months. Since brother used to dote on you so much, I thought he wouldn't give it to me. Who knew brother actually gave it to me." She deliberately emphasized the word brother, her tone full of pride. When Muchuan happened to pass by the backyard, and I stopped him, asking, "Brother, did you give my birthday gift to Wen Yin?" "Right." Meeting my gaze, his expression wavered for a moment, but only for a moment. He paused, his tone growing indifferent. "It's just a hairpin. Yin wanted it, so I gave it to her. If you want one, I can buy a few more for you from Yusin Tower." Sensing something vaguely, my eyes inexplicably reddened. "But you made it yourself, and you promised to give it to me." I couldn't accept that even my brother would choose to stand on Wen Yin's side. Overwhelming grievance and resentment instantly filled my heart, and I instinctively raised my hand, wanting to take the hairpin from Wen Yin's hair. When Muchuan's brows suddenly furrowed, he grabbed my wrist with such force that it hurt. I looked up and met his eyes, which no longer held the indulgence and affection they once did, but instead gleamed with coldness. "Mother was right," he said, "I spoiled you too much. Before, letting you constantly target Yin everywhere, I froze, and in the end, I could only watch helplessly as when Muchuan turned and left with Wen Yin. I don't know how long I stood there, until cold raindrops slid down my cheeks. When I looked up, I unexpectedly bumped into a tall, solid figure, Jiyu Qingyang, dressed in a black brocade robe with subtle patterns, a jade belt cinched at his waist, his posture upright and imposing. Seeing my reddened eyes, a trace of ferocity suddenly flickered in his brow, and he instinctively frowned. "Who bullied you?" My heart tightened, and I instinctively opened my mouth, but the words caught in my throat and I forced them back. The moment of undisguised concern in his eyes just now felt so genuine, almost making me believe it was an illusion, as if the person before me was still the notorious troublemaker of the capital, yet the only one who would bow his head and obey me in everything, who would argue with others for my sake and offer me the best of everything. Jiyu Qingyang. Seeing my continued silence, Jiyu Qingyang's patience gradually faded, and he didn't press further. I came to find you today for a reason. What is it? After a moment of silence, he said solemnly, can you give up our marriage to Yin Yin? I was stunned for a moment, then looked up at him calmly, my tone even. Our marriage was bestowed by the Empress Dowager. Talking to me about it is useless. Jiyu Qingyang choked, his Adam's apple bobbing. I know, but I will mediate in this matter. I came to you today, only hoping you won't interfere or obstruct. After all, the Empress Dowager has always doted on you. If you disagree, she will definitely. I interrupted him softly. I agree, it's good that you agree. As if he hadn't expected such a calm reaction from me. He paused mid-sentence and suddenly looked up. After all, back in the academy, if he so much as spoke an extra word to Wen Yin, I would argue with him fiercely. But he didn't understand, now that I had lost my family members one by one. Losing one more fiancé didn't really matter anymore. On the day of the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, in the lakeside pavilion in the rear garden, a group of guests leaned against the railings, admiring the lake. The spring scenery was lovely, the lake surface shimmering with ripples, reflecting the garden full of blooming flowers. I stood quietly in a corner, enjoying the view, when Wen Yin approached me. Sister, have you heard about Qingyang wanting to break off the engagement with you? Hearing the hidden smugness in her tone, I lowered my gaze, not intending to respond. Just then, my friend Shen Yuan walked over, linking her arm with mine, her voice neither too loud nor too soft. If you ask me, some people, after their own parents die, cling to other people's parents. Not only do they steal someone else's brother, but they also steal their fiancé. As she spoke, she glanced at Wen Yin beside her, truly shameless. An orphan girl really thinks she's something special. Wen Yin's expression suddenly changed. Several noble ladies nearby had already pricked up their ears, their eyes darting back and forth among the three of us. When Yin suddenly spoke, her eyes already reddening, she looked at me, her voice tinged with grievance. Sister, how could you incite an outsider to speak of me like this? At that moment, I caught sight of my mother and Wen Muchuan walking toward us from the other side of the crowd. When Yin's voice suddenly rose a few notches, you know perfectly well that my father only did it to save my mother. Sister, I truly never intended to take anything from you. Please believe me, okay? As she spoke, she suddenly rushed forward, making a move to grab my sleeve. I instinctively tried to dodge, but I was still a step too slow. She seized my sleeve and tumbled toward the lake. The icy lake water instantly submerged me over my head. I flailed desperately, choking on several mouthfuls of water, and faintly heard a cry of alarm from the shore. It was my mother's voice. She shouted, "Go save Yin Yin." I sank downward, lake water flooded my ears, the world a chaotic blur in my blurred vision. Two figures plunged into the lake one after the other. Then, I saw them, Jiyu Qingyang brother. They were swimming toward the shore, supporting Wen Yin between them, one on each side, and I was still in the water, continuing to sink deeper. I woke up in the Empress Dowager's bedchamber. Inside the hall, calming sandalwood incense was burning, its light smoke curling up from the golden censer shaped like a beast's head. Silly girl, you've finally woken up. A voice, aged yet gentle, came from beside me. I turned my head. The Empress Dowager was seated on a rosewood chair by the bed, holding the sandalwood prayer beads I had seen since childhood. Her eyes and brows were filled with tenderness and affection. As I caught the familiar scent of sandalwood, my eyes suddenly welled up. It was the fragrance of my childhood. When my parents left the capital in my childhood, the Empress Dowager would always take me into the palace for a short stay. When she held me to sleep, this was the scent on her. I sat up, wrapped my arms around her, buried my face in her embrace, and refused to let go. The Empress Dowager gently stroked my hair, over and over, exactly as I remembered from my childhood. Yarrow girl, have you been bullied? I didn't speak, just held her lapel tighter. The Empress Dowager didn't press further, only continued stroking my hair. After a long while, she spoke again, her voice even softer than before. Today, that boy from the Jiyu family came to the palace and told me he wants to switch his marriage arrangement with you to that Wen Yin. If you're unwilling, I certainly won't. I shook my head. The Empress Dowager's words trailed off. I heard my own voice, soft yet resolute. Your Majesty, I no longer wish to marry him. The Empress Dowager looked at me, her eyes instantly filling with heartache. Very well, a scoundrel who abandons you in danger is not worth marrying. As she spoke, her gaze darkened slightly. But since that wretched boy has treated you so poorly, I certainly will not let him have his way. I rose from the Empress Dowager's embrace and looked at her, my gaze filled with a glimmer of hope. Your Majesty, I heard that you will soon be going to the Ganya temple to pray for the great Yin. The Empress Dowager fell silent for a moment, as if seeing right through my thoughts. Do you know how far the Ganya temple is from the capital? She asked, her tone serious. This time, I won't be returning for at least a year or two. Then I would like to accompany you there. Are you really sure about this? Her gaze fell on my face, as if trying to discern whether I was acting out of spite or speaking from the heart. I met her gaze, my tone solemn. I've made up my mind. I want to leave the capital, to leave those people behind. As the palace maid led me out of the hall, a hand suddenly shot out from the side and slapped me hard across the face. The sharp sound startled the maid, who let out a low gasp. I tilted my head, my face burning with pain, and slowly turned around. My mother stood before me, her hand still raised, looking at me with utter disappointment. To prevent your sister's marriage, you actually went so far as to cause a scene in front of Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. Qingyang has no feelings for you anyway. Can't you be generous and let your sister have this marriage? I looked into her eyes, feeling as though 1,000 ants were gnawing at my heart. There was no concern, no care for me after I had fallen into the water, only endless disappointment and anger, as if I had committed an unforgivable crime. Jiyu Qingyang stood by her side, his gaze full of mockery as he looked at me. That day, you pretended to be so carefree, and I thought you really wouldn't interfere. But as soon as you turned around, you went to the Empress Dowager and complained, making her reject my marriage to Yinyin. He paused, his tone growing even colder. But I, Jiyu Qingyang, swear here today that even if it costs me my life, I will never marry you. I sneered coldly and was just about to speak when a light cough suddenly came from within the hall, carrying an unquestionable authority. Everyone turned to the side in unison as the Empress Dowager slowly emerged from the inner hall. Surrounded by palace attendants, my mother and Jiyu Qingyang hurriedly bowed in greeting. The Empress Dowager's gaze swept lightly over everyone before finally settling on Jiyu Qingyang. Her voice was calm yet carried a commanding pressure. Young man of the Jiyu family, do you still remember how your marriage to Shuyaro was arranged? Jiyu Qingyang froze for a moment. The Empress Dowager looked at him and slowly spoke. When you were young, you were playing carelessly in the mountains and happened to encounter a flash flood. Nearly swept away, it was Shuyaro who, disregarding her own life, clung tightly to your hand and stayed with you at the cliff's edge until help arrived. That wrist of hers still bears a scar to this day. She looked at Jiyu Qingyang, her gaze deepening slightly. After you were rescued back then, you personally told me that you would marry no one but Shuyaro in this lifetime, begging me to arrange your marriage. Have you forgotten all of this? Jiyu Qingyang's body stiffened abruptly, and he instinctively raised his eyes, his gaze falling directly on my wrist. My fingers tightened slightly, and I subtly tugged my sleeve downward, gently covering that faint yet deep old scar. The hall fell silent for a moment. Jiyu Qingyang's expression shifted several times. After struggling for a long while, he finally spoke with difficulty. I, your subject, still remember. His throat moved, his voice dry. I can marry Shuyao. But I have one request. I beg your majesty to allow me to welcome Wen Yin into my household in the future with the status of an equal wife, to be wed alongside Shuyao. As soon as these words were spoken, a faint light appeared in my mother's eyes. The Empress Dowager, however, suddenly let out a derisive laugh, her tone carrying a hint of coldness. The rights and regulations of our dynasty have never recognized the concept of equal wives. There is a distinction between principal and secondary wives, and between wife and concubine. Are you trying to break the rules? Or do you think the girl I've cherished since childhood should be treated so poorly by you? As her words fell, Jiyu Qingyang's face instantly paled. The Empress Dowager glanced at him lightly. However, fortunately, Shuyao is not fixated on you either. She just asked me for one thing. But it wasn't to stop your marriage to that Wen Yin. Jiyu Qingyang suddenly looked up, His gaze turning toward me with disbelief, the Empress Dowager said calmly, "Instead, she asked me to arrange a different marriage for her." These words exploded like thunder in the hall. Jiyu Qingyang stood frozen in place, his gaze toward me now filled only with profound astonishment. After a moment, he murmured to himself, "Impossible, how could this be?" I sneered inwardly. "What's impossible? That I no longer care whom he marries, or that I've long since let him go. I simply know that from the moment his gaze gradually shifted toward Wen Yin, and he repeatedly argued with me over her, the affection between us had long since worn away." The Empress Dowager waved her hand at him. "You may withdraw, I will decide on your marriage matters." Jiyu Qingyang staggered a step, bowed, and turned to leave. As he reached the hall's entrance, he looked back several times, his gaze lingering on me with complexity. After the Empress Dowager left, the hall fell silent in an instant, leaving only my mother and me standing face to face. She looked at my half-swollen, burning cheek, a flicker of confusion passing through her eyes. Her tone was somewhat stiff as she forced out the words, "Shuyao, it was Mother who misunderstood you just now. Does your face still hurt?" As she spoke, her hand lifted slightly, her fingertips trembling. Just as her fingertips were about to touch my cheek, I subtly took a step back, her hand froze mid-air. I looked up at her, no trace of expectation left in my eyes. "There's no need for Mother to worry. If Mother has no further instructions, I shall take my leave." My mother's lips quivered. She opened her mouth several times but ultimately swallowed her words. After I turned away, I heard her murmuring voice from behind, "Shuyao, you used to call me Mama." I didn't respond, it seemed. My mother had finally realized that I was beginning to distance myself from her. Since that day we left the Empress Dowager's palace, my mother seemed to have grown much warmer toward me. In the past, whenever new silks, jewelry, or delicate pastries arrived at the estate, Wen Yin always got to pick first, and only then would it be my turn. But now, she would often send them to my courtyard first, asking for my preferences. If this had happened before, I would have been overjoyed, feeling that my mother had finally noticed me. But now, my heart no longer stirred with any emotion. In 7 days, I would depart for Ganya Temple with the Empress Dowager. My mother's warmth lasted for a few days. Although I had long given up on her, those moments of concern and care made me waver for a moment, making me think we could return to the closeness we once shared. That was until the Empress Dowager's decree arrived ordering Wen Yin to accompany us to Ganya Temple to pay respects to the Buddha. Both Wen Yin and I were stunned for a moment. She immediately collapsed into my mother's arms, crying, "Mama, I don't want to go. Ganya Temple is 1,000 miles from the capital. Who knows how long the Empress Dowager plans to stay there? I'm afraid if I go, I'll never be able to return." As she spoke, she shot me a resentful glare. Meeting her tearful, accusatory gaze, I instantly understood Wen Yin's thoughts. She was convinced that I had used the Empress Dowager's hand to deliberately retaliate against her. Beside her, Wen Muchuan's face turned cold. "Wen Shuyao, how have you become so scheming and jealous? Span, you went to such great lengths just to drive Yin out of the estate. Span, even though my heart had long grown numb." Hearing these harsh words spoken by the person I once trusted and was closest to still caught me off guard, and my heart ached unexpectedly. My hands beneath my sleeves were trembling uncontrollably, but I did my best to keep my expression calm. "Span, Wen Muchuan, are you so eager to show your loyalty to your new sister?" He frowned at me. "What did you call me?" I didn't respond to his question, only saying, "Since you've chosen to be someone else's brother, then from now on, you are no longer my brother." With that, I turned and left. Wen Muchuan instinctively took a step to follow me but was stopped by Wen Yin, who grabbed his sleeve. After a moment's hesitation, he ultimately gave up on coming after me, although I didn't know that the Empress Dowager was concealing the truth and pretending to announce that she would take Wen Yin to Ganya Temple. I had a vague sense that she must be planning something for me. Ever since the Empress Dowager issued her decree, Wen Yin has been going to her mother's room every day, crying until dawn. Her mother's heart ached beyond measure, insisting that she would find a way, just like her brother. She firmly believed that I was the one secretly causing trouble. The brief warmth and closeness she had shown me a few days ago vanished in an instant. and she reverted to her former cold and distant demeanor. The imperial command was difficult to defy, and her mother truly had no way out. There was only one path left for her to take. Inside the Empress Dowager chambers, she knelt on the ground, speaking with heartfelt sincerity. Empress Dowager, my daughter Wen Yin has been frail and sickly since childhood, unable to endure the hardships of travel. The journey to Ganya Temple is long and arduous, and I fear she may not survive the trip, which would only hinder her from serving you properly. After saying this, her gaze fell directly on me. Shu Yao, on the other hand, is strong and healthy, with a steady temperament. Having grown up by your side since childhood, she would surely be able to serve you well along the way. Why not take her with you instead? As soon as these words were spoken, the chamber fell into a sudden, deathly silence. My fingers, hanging at my sides, curled slightly, and my heart was left with nothing but a numb, icy chill. The Empress Dowager's silent gaze fell upon my pale face, a flicker of evident distress passing through her eyes. After a moment, she set down her teacup and looked at my mother. Cheonghua, you too once fought on the battlefield alongside General Wen in your youth. I had thought that someone like you, who has seen the world, would understand clearly. I never imagined you could be so foolish. Do you know that once a rift forms in the heart, it can never truly be mended? My mother lowered her head, her eyelashes trembling slightly, but in the end, she said nothing. In the end, the Empress Dowager was unable to retract her decree. On the long palace path, I walked side by side with my mother. Her tone was cold. Shuyao, you have indeed grown up. Now you even use the Empress Dowager to admonish your own birth mother. As if recalling something, she let out a light, scornful laugh. A rift. I never knew that my careful upbringing of you since childhood would lead you to harbor resentment toward me. I stopped in my tracks, and my mother turned to look at me. Mother, I have never blamed you. I just couldn't understand. I couldn't understand how the mother I had longed for day and night would one day bring back a child of my own age. From then on, I had to be cautious even when calling you mother, and I dared not get close to you. Others said you were strict with me because you valued me. All these years, I have tried my hardest to do everything well. I thought that as long as I was sensible enough, excellent enough, you would eventually see me. But from beginning to end, I couldn't even earn a single word of praise or a hint of concern from you. Yet Wen Yin, even with mediocre grades and a willful, spoiled nature, could win your full favor with just a cry or a tantrum. My hands hanging at my sides tightened slightly, and my voice trembled softly, yet it was unusually clear. To this day, I can no longer continue deceiving myself. It turns out, you stopped loving me long ago. It turns out that admitting out loud that your own mother no longer loves you is something that hurts even to breathe, yet it is also a complete liberation. Mother's breathing suddenly grew heavier, and a flicker of panic flashed in her eyes as she looked at me, but that hint of strangeness vanished in an instant, quickly replaced by her usual indifference and impatience. You are the legitimate daughter of the general's manor, born into a noble status since childhood, but Yinyin is just an orphan girl. If I don't take extra care of her, how will she establish herself in the capital as her elder sister? Not only do you not yield to her more, but you also compete with her for favor and nitpick over every little thing. What kind of behavior is that? Seeing the righteous indignation on my mother's face, all my emotions suddenly died down, and I no longer had any desire to speak. She continued, her tone growing more anxious. The day after tomorrow, the Empress Dowager will depart. Tomorrow, come with me to the palace again to plead with her. Just say it's your own filial piety, that you actively wish to accompany the Empress Dowager in her old age. Surely, this time, the Empress Dowager won't refuse. Don't worry, for this pilgrimage, the Empress Dowager will surely be like before. She'll be back in a few months at most. By the time you return, I will definitely make it up to you. This is the first time. Before my mother could finish speaking, I had already turned and left. The day before I set off for Ganya Temple with the Empress Dowager, my father suddenly returned to the capital. To everyone's surprise, he also brought back a pregnant woman. The moment mother saw the woman, her face instantly turned deathly pale. She swayed slightly, her eyes filled with disbelief and a chilling coldness. She had maintained a dignified and proper household for many years, Yet now her voice trembled. Who is she? Father's expression remained indifferent. Warning is carrying. My child, arrange a quiet courtyard for her and take good care of her. Mother stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning, unable to speak for a long while. That night, restless and uneasy, Mother quietly made her way to the outer courtyard. Before she could push the door open, she heard two familiar voices inside, softly intertwining. Mother, you've finally come back for me. Wen Yin's voice carried years of suppressed grievances and excitement. All these years, I've been carefully currying favor in this household, playing the role of someone else's obedient and gentle daughter day after day, just waiting for this day to reunite with you. Song Waning gently stroked her hair, her tone full of praise. I just saw how respectfully all the servants in the household treat you. It seems you've long since established yourself firmly here. Yin Yin truly is Mother's good daughter. All thanks to Mother's secret letters guiding me, I was able to coax that woman's favor step by step. Wen Yin chuckled softly, her tone filled with disdain and mockery. She is also incredibly foolish. With just a little provocation from me, she truly regarded me as a confidant, even neglecting her own biological daughter. Two smug chuckles echoed from inside the room. Song Waning gently stroked her swollen belly, her voice soft yet edged with sharpness. Once Mother gives birth to this child in my womb, no one in this general's mansion will be able to shake our position. Mother and daughter, this vast general's estate will finally have a place for us, making all these years of careful planning worthwhile. A moment later, when Yin's voice suddenly took on a note of panic, but the Empress Dowager has already issued an edict, ordering me to accompany her to Ganya Temple for Buddhist rites. She has always disliked me. I fear that once I go, I may never return. It's all because of that useless woman. She went to see the Empress Dowager several times but accomplished nothing. All these years, I've been calling her mother and putting in so much effort to play the role of her obedient daughter, all for nothing. Song Waning lowered her voice to reassure her, speaking with certainty. Don't worry, your father has returned to the capital with military achievements this time. If he steps forward to explain things to the Empress Dowager, she certainly won't refuse to give him face. Wen Yin instantly beamed with joy and leaned in closer. My mother is still the most amazing. The wind swept through the corridor, carrying the whispers of this mother and daughter pair all the way to the door. Mother stood frozen in place, her entire body cold as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Only now did she finally understand. The daughter she had poured her heart into loving all these years had long been a pawn in someone else's game. It turned out that back when the border was in turmoil, upon hearing the news of her husband's death in battle, Song Waning had calculated that Mother would come searching for the orphan. She deliberately hid herself away, watching as Mother took the young Wen Yin back to the general's mansion. Once Mother left, she immediately sought out Father, who was still in the army, and stayed by his side with a gentle and submissive demeanor. Mother had a strong and unyielding personality, always striving to excel in everything, and was not adept at speaking softly. Yet, Song Waning was compliant in every way, soothing with gentle words, gradually claiming all of Father's tenderness and compassion. Mother, who had been proud and dignified for half her life, had never before endured such scheming and mockery. That night, she erupted in fury. She turned and stormed straight to the study, drew her sword, and charged directly into Song Waning's room. Amidst the chaotic dispute, Song Waning accidentally collided with the corner of a table, and in an instant, her skirt was stained with blood, a shocking sight. Upon hearing the news, my father rushed over. Furious at the scene, he immediately ordered my mother to be confined to the ancestral hall under strict house arrest. When I went to see her, her eyes were hollow, her hair disheveled. The dignity, authority, and pride she had carried throughout her life had completely crumbled, leaving her in a pitiful state. Upon seeing me, a wave of blood-red regret finally surged in her eyes. Shuyao, it was my fault. I was blinded by treacherous people all these years. I've wronged you. She tightly gripped my hand, her fingertips cold and trembling. Then suddenly a fierce glimmer of hope ignited in her eyes. Thank goodness the Empress Dowager is taking that little wretch away tomorrow. As long as you and your brother are here, that woman will never set foot in the general's manor. I gently withdrew my hand. my tone calm to the point of indifference. "Mother, I came today to bid you farewell." She froze, the light in her eyes instantly stilled. I slowly began to speak. "The one who will accompany the Empress Dowager to the Ganya temple to pay respects to Buddha has always been me, from the very beginning." Mother suddenly froze, then burst into tears, as if in that moment, she understood everything completely. She sobbed uncontrollably, staring fixedly at me. "After you fell into the water that day, you had already decided to leave Mother, hadn't you?" I looked at her tear-streaked face, filled with regret, and felt no ripple of emotion in my heart, only a deep, silent chill. I softly spoke. "Actually, the Empress Dowager once gave you a chance as well. That day in the palace, if you hadn't pushed me forward without hesitation to beg her to keep Wen Yin instead, she had already intended to refuse to take me away." As the words fell, all color drained from Mother's face. On the day of departure, the morning mist had not yet lifted, and the carriages and horses were already prepared. I was just about to step forward when Muchuan hurried over. After several days of turmoil at home, he had become so thin that he was almost unrecognizable, his face etched with weariness, no longer bearing the vibrant and spirited appearance of the past. He looked at me, his voice choked with bitterness. "Shu Yao, it's my fault as your elder brother. I shouldn't have doubted you." He must have learned the truth that I once saved his life by exchanging my blood for medicine. Yet the belated apology is as light as a fallen leaf, unable to stir even the slightest ripple. I merely glanced at him calmly, without sorrow or joy. "Brother, there is no need to apologize. The past is over, and I have already forgotten it all." After a pause, I said softly, "From now on, at Ganya Temple, I will follow the Empress Dowager in focusing on Buddhist practices, cultivating my character and nurturing my spirit. I will no longer involve myself in the slightest with the affairs of the general's manor." He opened his mouth, but in the end, words failed him, leaving only eyes filled with regret. And standing beside Muchuan, silent for a long time, was Jiyu Qingyang. He took a step forward, his voice low and earnest, carrying an almost humble plea. "Shu Yao, I know I wronged you in the past. I was blind and foolish, believing slander and causing you pain. Go with peace of mind. I will wait for you in the capital. When you return, I will arrange the proper matchmaking, prepare a grand wedding procession, and marry you without fail, making up for everything with my whole life." After hearing this, I suddenly let out a soft laugh. "You jest, young Master Jiyu. There has long been no possibility between us." Jiyu Qingyan's face instantly turned deathly pale, his figure swayed slightly, and the light in his eyes gradually dimmed. The coachman cracked his whip, and the wheels were about to roll. Suddenly, a heart-wrenching cry came from the direction of the city wall, growing more urgent with each call. It was Mother. She was disheveled and frantic, running all the way, leaning against the city wall and crying out hoarsely, "Shu Yao, don't go. Mother was wrong." Mother truly knows she was wrong. The sound was heart-wrenching, piercing through the morning mist, making one's heart tighten. My fingers lifting the carriage curtain paused almost imperceptibly for a moment. In just an instant, in the next second, I lowered my gaze, bent down, and stepped steadily into the carriage. It was already 2 years later when I returned to the capital again. Back then, the Empress Dowager passed away from a severe illness after just 1 year of worshipping Buddha at Ganya Temple. I, dressed in plain clothes with a serene face, spent that year both in prayer and in mourning for her, coinciding with the day an army reclaiming the borderlands and bringing peace across the land. The emperor, moved by my utmost sincerity and filial piety, as well as my contributions in praying for the nation's prosperity, issued an edict to confer upon me the title of Mingan County Princess, bestowing gold and a residence. The moment I set foot in the capital, I knew that while the place remained, the people had changed. The general's manor had long since undergone a transformation. Mother has been burdened by the events of that year, and now she is seriously ill and bedridden. My elder brother, Mu, turned against our father out of resentment for Mother's suffering, leading to a rift between them. Without father's support, he has faced constant setbacks in his career and has been constrained by others. Meanwhile, Song Waning and Wen Yin, favored by father, have thrived within the household. Fortunately, during my 2 years at Ganya Temple, I learned from the Empress Dowager all about human scheming, court politics and the art of managing a household. Over the years of managing the household, Song Wanning has been embezzling funds, keeping chaotic accounts, and skimming from expenses, causing widespread discontent among the servants. Under the pretext of caring for my mother, I entered the estate daily, quietly winning people over. I comforted and promoted loyal old servants, while showing kindness to those who had been oppressed. In less than half a month, most of the servants had secretly aligned themselves with me. Subsequently, using my status as the county princess, I publicly demanded an audit of the estate's accounts. Song Wanning made every excuse to avoid it, speaking evasively, and the accounts were full of discrepancies. She even tried to pass off long invalid receipts as valid. I did not make a fuss or cause a scene. I simply compiled all the evidence into a dossier and submitted it directly to the palace. The emperor, who had long been displeased with the unrest in the households of military officials, immediately issued an edict upon seeing this, ordering me to take charge of the household affairs of the general's residence, to rectify internal matters and uphold the family's reputation. Once the imperial decree was issued, even if my father had any bias, he dared not defy the emperor's command. In the end, I publicly reclaimed the household seal from Song Wanning. At this very moment, urgent news arrived from the border, and my father was recalled overnight. Once my father left, the general's mansion completely became a chessboard in my hands. Song Wanning and Wen Yin, having lost their backing, were like beasts with their teeth pulled out. No longer possessing even a shred of their former arrogance, I did not drive them to utter ruin, but I also offered no way out, only grinding them down day by day. From then on, the mother and daughter were like fish on the chopping block, completely at my mercy. In the depths of winter, my mother's condition worsened. Knowing her time was short, she dismissed everyone else and called me in, then tremblingly grasped my hand. "Shuyao, I miss you so much. Lately, I've been dreaming of you as a child, just up to my waist, and as soon as I returned home, you would rush over, eagerly wanting me to hold you. But as you grew older, the hearts of us mother and daughter drifted further and further apart." Her voice choked in her throat, tears welling up in her eyes, her words so soft they were almost inaudible. "It's all my fault, I'm sorry." Her words abruptly stopped, her grip on my hand suddenly loosened, and her wrist fell limp. The candlelight in the room flickered, casting swaying shadows across the space. I lowered my gaze to her pale, lifeless face, feeling neither sorrow nor joy, only a vast, empty calm. She owed me a lifetime of favoritism and justice. Yet even in death, she couldn't bring herself to utter a complete apology, and I no longer need that complete apology to prove that I am loved. The wind and snow outside the window gradually cease. The moon rises above the treetops. Tomorrow should be a rare sunny day. The first story ends here. Don't go away. The next story is even more exciting. The Crown Prince and Prince Yang are twin brothers, born with their 5 senses interconnected, so every time I consummate the marriage with the Crown Prince Yang, I have been the Crown Princess for 3 years before I learned that the person I fell in love with at first sight during the spring outing in the suburbs was Prince Yang. Married the wrong person, then let's make the best of it. After a palace banquet, I tied the Crown Prince's hands with a belt and played the role of a female bandit for once. When I collapsed exhausted in his arms, a lazy voice whispered in my ear, "Sister-in-law, are you usually this proactive in front of my elder brother?" "Oh no, he is the Prince of Yang, not the Crown Prince." I trembled with fear, as the Crown Prince was on his way with a sword in hand. After the lingering intimacy, the Crown Prince fell into a deep, satisfied sleep. Outside the window, the fierce wind howled, scattering the crabapple blossoms all over the ground. I got up to close the window, but faintly heard sounds from next door that made my face flush. For this royal hunt, we are staying at the mountaintop palace if I remember correctly. The person staying in the room next to ours is Prince Yang. Zhai Juyan, Prince Yang, and Crown Prince Zhai Juqi are twin brothers. I have been married to the Crown Prince for 3 years, yet Prince Yang doesn't even have a maid to attend to him at night, let alone a wife or concubine. Could it be that Prince Yang has secretly hidden a woman in his room? On second thought, even if he has hidden a girl in his room, It wouldn't be surprising. I'd better mind my own business. I intended to return to bed and continue sleeping peacefully, but my feet uncontrollably stepped out of the room. By the time I wanted to back out, I was already standing outside the window of the neighboring bedroom. The window wasn't shut properly, creaking in the wind. The familiar sound echoed once more. Just as I was about to leave, the window was suddenly blown open by a strong gust of wind. I looked up and saw a shocking scene. Prince Yang half leaned in the bathtub, his handsome face tinged with an unsatisfied desire. There were no other women in the room, only himself. He was actually afraid of being discovered by him. I wanted to flee. My foot suddenly kicked a stone, making a faint sound. Prince Yang looked up, and our eyes met. His ears were flushed red. I quickly covered my eyes and fled, silently repeating in my heart, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. I saw nothing at all. I hurriedly fled back into the house and locked the door. As I walked to the side room, I suddenly froze. Oh no, I think I entered the wrong room. This is Prince Yang's bedroom. He had already stepped out of the bathtub and was putting on his robe with his back to me. I went to the wrong room, I stammered in a panic, turning around to run. My hand had just grasped the doorknob when a tall shadow fell over me from behind. Sister-in-law, just now, did you see everything? I turned around, shaking my head like a rattle drum. I didn't see anything, nor did I hear anything. Truly, is that so? Then why are you so flustered? Seeing my embarrassed expression, Zhai Jiuyan curled the corners of his lips as if I were the one who had done something wrong, not him. Suddenly, I stopped panicking. I've been through it all. As long as I'm not embarrassed, he's the one who should feel awkward. I took a deep breath and feigned composure, saying, even if I saw it, I wouldn't say a word. You can rest assured, you've reached the age for marriage. It's time to tie the knot. Upon hearing the words tie the knot, Prince Yang was momentarily stunned. His eyes held a complex expression, a mix of unrequited love and unwillingness to accept it. Sister-in-law, do you know who I was just thinking of? His words piqued my curiosity, and I pressed further. Who? Which young lady? You should ask father to arrange a marriage for you, Zhai Jiuyan slowly uttered. You, Jiang Weining. Ah. I was stunned. Does your elder brother know you're this perverted? Your Highness is perverted. Zhai Jiuyan paused. Then has my royal brother ever told you that your Highness and I are born with a shared five senses? Shared five senses? What on earth is this? He slowly explained. Simply put, every time you consummate your marriage, I can feel it as if it were happening to me. Do you know, for these 3 years, every time you were inseparable from him, I, the prince, have been lying alone, unable to sleep. I was shocked. Really? Prince Yang lowered his voice and said, if you don't believe me, you can ask my royal brother, or try it yourself. My face flushed bright red, and I fled in panic. I have to go back. I quietly returned to my room. As I climbed into bed, the crown prince woke up. He casually pulled me into his arms, his voice lazy. Where did you go? Nature called. I gave a random excuse, seeing that I was not sleepy. The crown prince began to grow restless again. I recalled what Prince Yang had said. If he truly shared all five senses with my husband, then every time I consummated my marriage with my husband, wouldn't it be like being with two people? It's too perverse, too shameful. I want to test whether Prince Yang's words are true. Husband, I want to bite you. Please hold back. The crown prince, accustomed to this, replied gently. Go ahead, I'm not afraid of pain. I bit down on the crown prince's shoulder. Since I had warned him in advance, he was mentally prepared and made no sound, yet I could clearly hear the muffled groan of Prince Yang from next door. Hiss. This made me even more ashamed. I had an illusion that the person intimately close to me at this moment was Prince Yang. Seeing my flushed face, the crown prince gently rubbed my cheek and said in a doting tone, why are you still so shy? It seems what Prince Yang said about the five senses being interconnected is true. I tentatively asked, husband, are you hiding something from me? What are you referring to? I asked anxiously. Besides your similar appearances, do you and Prince Yang share any other similarities? The voice is similar too, and also, the crown prince hesitated, leaving his words unfinished. I pressed further. And what else? Nothing. The crown prince cut off the conversation, his possessiveness evident. Don't mention other men at a time like this. I'll get jealous. The next day the crown prince and the ministers went hunting. I went for a stroll in the woods behind the mountain. The woods were filled with exotic flowers and rare plants. Like a butterfly entering a sea of blossoms, I wanted to pick a flower from every blooming variety I saw. Soon, my hands were full of a bouquet of flowers. But then, red rashes began to appear on my hands. This scene feels familiar. 3 years ago, I went for a spring outing in the countryside and, while picking exotic flowers and plants, came into contact with toxic pollen. The same red rash appeared on the back of my hand. Fortunately, that time I met the crown prince. He found a medicinal herb in the grass, crushed it with a stone, and applied the juice to the back of my hand. The rash subsided, and I fell in love with him at first sight. Not long after returning from the spring outing, the emperor issued a decree betrothing me to the crown prince, thus sealing our marriage. I bent down to search through the grass for the medicinal herb I remembered. After scouring half the forest, I still couldn't find the antidote herb. Just as the red rash on the back of my hand was spreading, a voice came from behind. "Sister-in-law, are you looking for this herb?" I turned around and saw Prince Yang holding the herb I was searching for, examining the rash on the back of my hand. I nodded and reached out to take the herb. "How did you know?" "I naturally know." He didn't hand me the herb but instead found a stone, crushed the herb, and applied the juice to the back of my hand. His every movement flowed seamlessly, each detail exactly as it had been 3 years ago. Even when applying the herbal juice for me, he patiently circled 3 times to the left and 3 times to the right. If it had been the crown prince who told him, it would have been impossible to describe it in such detail. Seeing my stunned expression, Prince Yang also showed a look of confusion. "Sister-in-law, why are you so surprised? 3 years ago, didn't I help you apply the herbal medicine once?" I stood frozen in place. 3 years ago, during that outing in the countryside, was it you who applied the herbal medicine on me? He was also stunned. Who else could it have been? Did you think it was my elder brother? In that instant, we both realized I had mistaken him for someone else. Prince Yang said slowly, 3 years ago, I intended to ask His Majesty to grant us a marriage decree. However, my mother fell ill at the summer palace, and I went to deliver medicine. By the time I returned, His Majesty had already decreed your marriage to my elder brother. I went to find my father to retract the imperial decree, but he said that his word is final, and once an imperial decree is issued, it cannot be taken back. Moreover, my elder brother is the crown prince, and there is an order of seniority. I went to the Jiang residence to find you, wanting to ask why you agreed to marry my elder brother, but I unexpectedly overheard your conversation with your maid. You said you were deeply in love with the crown prince and that marrying him would leave you with no regrets in this life. Upon hearing this, I left in despair. After listening to Prince Yang's words, I finally realized that I had married the wrong person. It's not really my fault for mistaking him. Back then, after I returned from the spring outing, I told my father about it. My father firmly told me that the person I had met was the crown prince, so I didn't think much more about it. Looking back on the 3 years since I married the crown prince, he has showered me with affection, and I have been very happy and content. Since it's already wrong, let's just go with the flow. Your Highness, Prince Yang, everything is in the past. We were simply not meant to be. I shifted the topic. The crown prince treats me very well. Even if I made a mistake back then, I accept it. At that moment, the sound of hoofbeats came from the distance. Through the branches, I saw that the person riding over was none other than the crown prince. I hurriedly left, throwing out a sentence, "I'm leaving first. If the crown prince sees, he'll get jealous." After the hunt, the royal family held a palace banquet. At the palace banquet, the emperor wanted to arrange a marriage for Prince Yang. "Ju Yang, you have reached the age for marriage. If there is any young lady who catches your eye, tell your father, and I will arrange the marriage for you." Prince Yang drank cup after cup of strong liquor, his gaze burning as he stared at me. "Does father not know that your son already has someone in his heart? If father truly wishes to arrange a marriage for your son, then please arrange it with the one I love." The emperor's gaze deepened as he sighed. "You're putting your father in a difficult position." Prince Yang's eyes lingered on my face, and he said meaningfully, "Your son is also in a difficult position. If not, should I just take her by force?" The crown prince's expression turned cold. He picked up his wine cup and changed the subject. Ahem, let's drink. Let's drink. It seems they all knew Prince Yang liked me, only I was the last to realize it. The palace banquet has ended. The crown prince was kept behind by the emperor, who said he had a few words to say to him before parting. The crown prince scratched my palm and whispered, "Wait for me at the usual place." "Yes," I replied shyly. My husband was hinting at something. My husband and I have a secret place in the imperial palace. It is the stargazing pavilion located outside the Eastern Palace. Standing atop the stargazing pavilion, one can look up to see the starry sky and look down through the windows to behold the entire view of the imperial garden. My husband and I often go to the stargazing pavilion for dates, as it is far more interesting than the Eastern Palace. No matter how wild the play, it never disturbs others. Therefore, every time my husband and I go to the stargazing pavilion, we always have many ways to enjoy ourselves, and it is always very satisfying. I will go ahead to the stargazing pavilion to wait for my husband. I was already slightly tipsy, and as the night breeze blew on the way, the alcohol went to my head, making me dizzy and muddled. Ascending the stargazing pavilion, I saw my husband standing by the windowsill, facing the wind. I never expected him to arrive before me. I walked up and wrapped my arms around his waist. He turned around and pulled me into his embrace. I pressed my nose close to the hollow of his neck and took a sniff. My husband smells so fragrant, it's quite alluring. Husband, I hooked my arms around his neck, tilted my head up, and kissed the corner of his lips. He was taken aback for a moment, then immediately lowered his head and covered my lips with his. After a lingering kiss, I rested my head on his shoulder and whispered softly, "I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Could you carry me to the bed?" "All right," he replied, scooping me up in his arms and placing me on the bed. My husband and I are usually inseparable, and tonight, having both drunk some wine, our passion ignited like thunder meeting fire. Tonight, I was even more proactive than him. Under the influence of alcohol, I boldly took the lead and turned the tables. Tonight, I want to play the role of a female bandit, and my husband is the handsome man I've captured. I tied his wrists with my belt and said with drunken, blurry eyes, "Be good and let me have my way." Whinnying, he spoke hoarsely, as if he had something to say. If it were any other day, I would have let him finish. Drunk as I was, I directly lowered my head to seal his lips. Reaching out to undo his belt, he swallowed the words on the tip of his tongue, letting me have my way. The feeling of being a female bandit was truly thrilling. When I collapsed exhausted in his arms, a lazy and delighted voice whispered in my ear, "Sister-in-law, are you usually this proactive in front of my royal brother?" "What? I slept with the wrong person. His Prince Yang, not my husband." "You're not shy, Juchi." My scalp tingled, and my body trembled uncontrollably. All the boldness I had as a female bandit moments ago vanished completely. "I am Zhai Juoyan, the Prince of Yang." The Prince of Yang's brows relaxed, his face beaming with the joy of having achieved his wish. "Just now, did you not notice any difference between me and my imperial brother? I was too excited earlier, and due to being drunk, I didn't pay attention to those details. Now, upon careful reflection, there are indeed differences between him and my husband. For instance, at a certain specific moment, he did not bite my earlobe, nor did he mention those words that usually make me blush. He was very inexperienced, and I was the one leading all along. The more I thought about it, the redder my face became. I hurriedly searched for clothes to cover myself, looking embarrassed as I said, "Why didn't you remind me?" "I wanted to remind you, but as soon as I called your name, you kissed me, leaving me unable to speak." Prince Yang's hands were still tied by me, and he curled his lips, saying, "Sister-in-law, could you untie me now?" I fumbled to untie him, and my gaze fell upon the kiss marks and scratches I had left all over his body, making me even more ashamed and wishing I could die. What should I do if my husband finds out about you and me? I was on the verge of tears. Suddenly, I remembered the shared senses between the Crown Prince and Prince Yang, and I froze in place, completely petrified. "Has my husband already sensed it?" Prince Yang said with certainty. "He already knows and is probably on his way here with his sword drawn." I trembled with fear. I imagined the scene of the Crown Prince thrusting his sword through my chest. Any man would go crazy seeing his wife having an affair with another man. Right, especially since the man I'm having an affair with is his twin brother. This is really bad. Give me a block of tofu, I'd rather smash my head against it and die before he gets here. After the belt on Prince Yang's wrist was untied, he came to help me put on my clothes, comforting me. Don't be afraid. With me here, even if the sky falls, I'll hold it up. As soon as he finished speaking, hurried footsteps echoed from the stairs. The Crown Prince kicked open the door of the stargazing pavilion. Pointing his sword at Prince Yang with eyes wide in fury, "Zhai Juyan, I will kill you." I was timid and fainted from fright. When I woke up again, I was already in the Eastern Palace. The sky was bright, and the Crown Prince was not in the Eastern Palace. I summoned the maid, Maya, and asked nervously about what happened last night. "Maya, how did I return last night?" Maya lowered her eyes and said, "Your Highness, it was the Crown Prince who carried you back last night. His Highness also helped you clean up." After Maya's reminder, I vaguely had some awareness during my coma last night. I dreamed that the Crown Prince was helping me bathe. In the dream, he was gritting his teeth so hard they almost shattered, yet he was still very gentle and meticulous in washing me. I never expected it wasn't a dream. It's hard to imagine how heartbroken he must have been while washing my body. I feel increasingly sorry for the Crown Prince. Maya helped me wash up and change my clothes, and I asked again, "Is the Crown Prince all right? Where is he now?" Maya cautiously reported, "I heard that last night, the Crown Prince and Prince Yang had a dispute at the stargazing pavilion, both were injured, and the Empress personally went to mediate, ordering the news to be sealed. No one knows what happened at the stargazing pavilion last night. The Crown Prince attended court this morning and has not returned since. Judging by the sky, the morning court session has already ended, yet the Crown Prince has not returned. He must have been detained by the Emperor last night. The Empress Dowager intervened in the quarrel, and His Majesty and the Empress Dowager must be aware of this matter. Although others are unaware, it is enough to make me feel utterly ashamed. In utter despair, I said, "Maya, go find a white silk ribbon, 3 feet long." Maya looked wary. "Your Highness, are you perhaps thinking of taking your own life?" "Absolutely not." Before the Crown Prince went to court, he specifically instructed me that if your Highness asks for a white silk ribbon, I must not give it to you. His Highness also said with a serious expression that if anything happens to your Highness, he will have my head. My husband truly understands me. He even guessed that I wanted to hang myself. He seized my weakness, knowing I couldn't bear to see Maya punished, and deliberately threatened her harshly. "Okay, then I won't hang myself. I'll apologize when the Crown Prince returns. No matter how he punishes me, I'll accept it." After finishing my makeup, the Empress sent a eunuch to deliver an oral decree, saying Her Majesty the Empress invites me to join her for a meal. My heart tightened. It was exactly what I feared would happen. Is Her Majesty's move not meant to publicly execute me? It would be better to simply grant me a cup of poisoned wine and let me end it all. With a heavy heart, I made my way to the Empress's cunning palace. The Empress sat at the dining table and greeted me kindly, whinnying, "Come and sit." How dare I do such a thing? If what I did were to happen among the common people, I would be dragged away and thrown into a pig cage. I knelt straight down, my attitude of admitting fault extremely sincere. "I have done wrong. Please punish me, Mother Empress." A flicker of understanding flashed in the Empress's eyes as she stood up and helped me to my feet, speaking gently, "The fault lies with Yanga." "What fault do you have? The Empress has always treated me exceptionally well. Although we are mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, we are as close as sisters." Unexpectedly, in such a critical matter of right and wrong, the Empress could remain so calm and not blame me at all. She took my hand, had me sit down to eat, and personally served me dishes. Oh, where can one find such a mother-in-law? The Queen thinks I'm not at fault, but I cannot confuse right and wrong myself. If it's wrong, it's wrong. The more magnanimous the Empress appeared, the more guilty I felt. "Your Majesty, last night I was drunk and in a moment of confusion mistook Prince Yang for the Crown Prince. The mistake has been made, and I have failed the Crown Prince. I beg your Majesty to punish me." The Empress sighed softly and said with a calm demeanor, "Xia and Yanga are like 2 peas in a pod, identical in both stature and voice. It's not just you who made a mistake while drunk. Even I, as their mother, often confuse the 2 brothers. Therefore, it truly is not your fault." Seeing the guilt written all over my face, the Empress comforted me, saying, "The fault lies with Seer and Younger. So really should have known better. He was well aware that Younger has long coveted you. Yet, after the palace banquet last night, instead of escorting you back to the Eastern Palace, he asked you to wait at the stargazing tower, giving Younger an opportunity to take advantage. Moreover, Younger also lacks self-control, knowing full well that you are his sister-in-law. He still eagerly approached you. He took all the advantages, and the fault lies with him." After hearing the Empress's words, my worldview was completely shattered. So, I truly wasn't in the wrong. The fault lies with the Crown Prince and Prince Yang. The Empress is truly skilled at comforting people. On my way here, I was even thinking of atoning with my death, but after her guidance, I feel much better. I cautiously asked, "Mother Empress, will the Crown Prince divorce me?" "Phut!" the Empress burst into laughter immediately. I realized this was inappropriate, so I restrained my smile and said calmly, "He's too afraid you'll run off with Younger to even think of divorcing you." I looked bewildered. The Empress then continued, "Last night, after Younger came down from the stargazing pavilion, he went to see his father. He begged his father to stand up for him, asking why Seer, who was born only half a cup of tea earlier than him, gets all the good things. Being named Crown Prince is one thing, but now he even wants to take his woman. Seer has been yielding again and again, but now he can't take it anymore and doesn't want to back down anymore. His Majesty also felt that he had not been impartial, regretting that he had not consulted Sire before granting the Crown Prince's request for marriage. Therefore, the Emperor ordered Sire to choose one of two options, either relinquish the Crown Prince's position to Younger or give you to Younger. My eyes widened. I thought the Empress was already outrageous enough, but I never expected the Emperor to be even more so. This family, each one more absurd than the last. Can the position of the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess be given away so casually? If the Crown Prince heard his father say such things, he'd probably be furious enough to spit blood, right? I pressed further. And how did His Highness the Crown Prince respond? The Empress spoke calmly. Seer did not hesitate to choose to give up the position of Crown Prince to Younger. But guess what? I exclaimed in shock. What happened? The Empress sighed softly. Younger refused the position of Crown Prince, saying he only wants you. So, after this morning's court session, the two brothers knelt together outside the imperial study, begging His Majesty to decide for them. I was left utterly bewildered. The royal family truly takes willfulness to the extreme. Where is the bottom line? Where is the integrity? Can it get any more outrageous at this point? The Empress sighed, pressing her hand to her forehead, and said, "I wonder how His Majesty will decide. Both sides are his own flesh and blood. Alas, if only I had known back then that I shouldn't have carried twins in one pregnancy. But then again, it wasn't something I could choose. If the two brothers had nothing to do with each other, it would be fine. But they share all five senses. Right now, Younger hasn't taken a wife yet. If he were to marry another girl as his princess consort, and on their wedding night, Seer could feel it too. Wouldn't that be unfair to you?" The Empress reminded me of something I had forgotten. If Prince Yang were to marry a princess consort, and the Crown Prince could feel it too, that would make things even more chaotic. We can't just live as the four of us forever, can we? In the midst of the silence, the Empress Dowager came to report, "Your Majesty, the Emperor has sent word." The Empress's eyes lit up as she pressed further. What did His Majesty say? I also pricked up my ears. The messenger eunuch glanced at me, as if what he was about to say next was not suitable to be spoken in my presence. The Empress commanded, "It's fine. The Crown Princess's family. Speak plainly." Only then did the eunuch report, "Yes, Your Majesty." His Majesty said, "Let His Highness the Crown Prince and His Highness Prince Yang discuss it among themselves. If the two brothers become estranged over the Crown Princess, he will have the Crown Princess executed." I trembled in fear. Oh no, the Emperor wants to sentence me to death. It seems my little life is still in danger. The Empress dismissed the eunuch and comforted me, whinnying, "Don't be afraid. The Emperor is just talking. He's throwing the problem to Seer and Younger, letting them decide for themselves. If he really intends to sentence you to death, I, your mother, will give you a pardon token." Moved, I held the Empress's hand, my eyes reddening. Woo-woo, mother, thank you. The Empress patted the back of my hand. Good girl. Whether you choose Sia or Yanga, you will always be my daughter-in-law. I have seen the affection between you and Sia over these 3 years of marriage, and I want to ask you, do you have any feelings for Yanga? Her Majesty truly doesn't treat me as an outsider. I am still the crown princess. Yet she asks me if I have feelings for Prince Yang. I would have to be insane to answer that. Mother, I stammered, unwilling to answer. The Empress reassured me. I'm just curious, speak boldly, and no matter what your answer is, I won't blame you, I slowly replied. To be honest with you, mother, when I first married the crown prince, I thought he was the one who had detoxified me. Who would have thought it was actually Prince Yang? The Empress murmured to herself. So it turns out that you initially liked Yanga first. I am also partly responsible for this. If Yanga hadn't gone to the palace to deliver medicine for me back then, he would have been the one to ask the emperor for the marriage decree first. So, in the end, it was Sia who took the person he loved. The emperor is truly something, rushing to arrange a marriage without investigating thoroughly. However, I can understand him. You are the daughter of the prime minister, and the emperor originally intended to arrange a marriage between you and the crown prince. He just didn't expect that you and Yanga would fall for each other first. Well, their whole family is at fault, only I am the most innocent, so marrying the wrong person or sleeping with the wrong person, neither is a big deal. If the emperor truly intends to have me executed, the crown prince and Prince Yang would be the first to disagree. Beyond that, the empress would also protect me at the very least. There is still my father, after all. My father is the emperor's teacher. If the emperor were to execute his beloved daughter, it would surely stir up a storm in that case. I cannot die. I eat when I should eat, and drink when I should drink. Difficult problems are left to the crown prince and Prince Yang. The main focus is on avoiding internal strife before leaving, the empress said. In truth, how this matter concludes ultimately depends on your attitude. If you can act as though nothing has happened, I believe Sia will not pursue it further. Even if Yanga remains unwilling, there is nothing he can do. If you still have feelings for Yanga, I will make the decision for you both. After all, both the palm and the back of the hand are flesh. The empress truly lives up to her reputation as someone who has seen great scenes. How can she endure this? After leaving Cunning Palace, I went for a walk in the imperial garden. I stood under a large tree, lost in thought. A green parrot perched on the tree, and it actually spoke. Hey, old friend. I'm Little Green. I was amused by its way of striking up a conversation. Old friend, this lady does not know you. Little Green acted as if we were already familiar. Last night, when you and Prince Yang were passionately entangled in the stargazing pavilion, I was perched on the windowsill. You were so engrossed that you didn't notice my presence. My face flushed red from its words. Has this parrot become a spirit? Not only did it peak, but it was also so outspoken. If it were to gossip and spread the word everywhere, what happened last night might quickly spread throughout the entire palace, and even the entire Jai kingdom. Ahem, here's some candy for you, don't go around talking nonsense. I took a piece of candy from my sleeve, unwrapped it, and fed it to the green parrot. I never expected the green parrot to be so fond of the candy I gave it. Woman, you've found my weakness. For the sake of the candy, I promise not to reveal what I saw last night to outsiders. This parrot is truly amusing. Talking with it has lifted my spirits quite a bit. After finishing the candy, it said with a wise expression, "Are you troubled by what happened last night? Should you choose the crown prince or Prince Yang? It's not a matter of who I choose at all. I am the crown princess. Who else could I possibly choose? It's not like I could remarry Prince Yang. Could I? Besides, the crown prince treats me so well, how could I bear to hurt him again? As for Prince Yang, fate brought us together but not to stay." Seeing my silence, the green parrot sighed. Why not take them both? After all, they share the same senses. Better to benefit you than some outsider. Even the parrot is this absurd. It's utterly insane. I sighed. Ah, Little Green chirped. One is a prince who captured your heart at first sight. The other is a crown prince with whom affection grew over time. One holds you in the palm of his hand, the other places you at the very center of his heart. It's truly impossible to let go of either. For you, they've even given up the crown prince's position. Giving them both a home, what's wrong with that? Both the crown prince and the prince are willing to live or die for you. What girl wouldn't be confused? You've simply made the mistake that every woman in the world would make. Although you've been eating well with the crown prince, wouldn't double the happiness be even better? I recalled the scene from last night, and my face grew even redder. Putting aside everything else, it truly was double the happiness. If I were the princess and they were my consorts, I might really have taken both of them. Stop right there. How could I even think that? I am guilty. Returning to the Eastern Palace, I left a letter for the crown prince saying that I would be staying at the imperial retreat for 7 days. Upon seeing the letter, he should be able to guess that I currently don't know how to face him. I wished to be alone for a while, to take a moment to calm down. 7 nights later, as I returned to my room with a lantern, I was embraced by a pair of hands. His voice was filled with longing, whinnying, "I have missed you so much." A wave of guilt washed over me, and my nose tingled with emotion. "My husband, I'm sorry." The crown prince blamed himself, saying, "That night, I should not have let you go to the stargazing pavilion. It was my mistake, and I do not blame you. You need not blame yourself." The more he blamed himself, the more guilty I felt. "You don't blame me, I don't blame you." The crown prince changed the subject. "I intend to abdicate the crown prince position to Ju Yang. I only want you. Would you be willing to elope with me?" "Elope?" I shook my head and said slowly, "My parents have treated me very well, and I am the only daughter in the family. If I elope with you, how heartbroken would my parents be? I cannot abandon my parents for my own selfish desires. You are the same. As the crown prince, you should care about the world, not give up everything you have for the sake of romance." The crown prince was taken aback for a moment, then affectionately rubbed my face and said, "My dear, you are absolutely right. I was not thoughtful enough. You have been pampered since childhood. And if we were to elope, you would inevitably face hardships and exhaustion. I cannot bear to see you suffer even the slightest bit. As for the position of crown prince, if I am gone, my younger brother can take my place. However, if I were to run away with you, I would indeed let down the expectations of my father and mother." The crown prince abandoned the idea of eloping with me. He said firmly, whinnying, "No matter what, I will never give you up to Julian. Can you forget that night at the stargazing tower? My husband is truly magnanimous to the point of being heartbreaking. Having such a husband, I am very content." I nodded. "Yes, let's both forget about it." He lifted me by the waist and gently placed me on the bed. A sound came from outside the window. I followed the sound and looked over. Prince Yang stood in the darkness, and from his wounded expression, it was clear that he had heard the heartfelt words exchanged between the crown prince and me. He seemed to have 1,000 things to say, yet he remained silent, swallowing his grievances and unwillingness. "My lady, focus." The crown prince pulled my attention back. He knew Prince Yang was outside the window and deliberately asserted his dominance. The curtain fell, concealing our figures. The evening breeze swept in, scattering crabapple blossoms across the ground. Prince Yang tucked the crabapple hairpin from his palm into his chest and left in dejection. The next day, I returned to the palace with my husband. On the way, we encountered an ambush. The assassins came with the intent to kill the crown prince. For this trip to bring me back to the palace, the crown prince had brought a team of guards and a team of covert guards. Defending against assassins is no problem at all, but the real challenge lies ahead. As a melody of a zither emerges from the forest, the sound of the zither strikes straight to the soul. Sitting in the carriage, my head throbs with each note. The guards exclaim in alarm, "It's the zither bird." The lyrebird is a spiritual pet raised by the world's top chain master, and its strings are made from the silk it produces. The chain master plays the chain from 10 miles away, while the lyrebird flies to circle near the intended target. The melody played by the chain master harmonizes with the lyrebird's song, killing without a trace. Even those with formidable internal energy may not withstand the lyrebird's attack, let alone someone like me who lacks any internal energy. My brain felt like it was about to shatter, and a pained expression appeared on my face. The crown prince possessed inner strength, allowing him to temporarily resist the penetrating sound of the zither. If this continued, I would die from my brain exploding long before the archers arrived to provide support. Whinnying, "They are targeting me." "I will go and lure the zither bird away," the crown prince said, lifting the carriage curtain and leaping onto a horse. He then ordered the guards, "Someone, escort the crown princess back to the palace. The crown princess must not suffer even the slightest harm, as you command." I pledged to guard the crown princess with my life. The guards split into two groups. One went to protect the crown prince, while the other escorted me back to the palace. Meanwhile, the covert guards were eliminating the assassins in the forest. The carriage carried me through the encirclement, leaving a trail of dust behind as it sped away. I lifted the carriage curtain and saw the crown prince, accompanied by his guards, galloping away in the opposite direction. The black lyrebird circling above the forest flew in the direction where the crown prince had departed. Just as I was about to lower the carriage curtain, I caught a glimpse of Prince Yang riding a horse, chasing after the crown prince. Prince Yang turned back and glanced at me, his gaze filled with an indescribable emotion. For a moment, I couldn't quite grasp what it meant. Why did he go after the crown prince? The murderous sound of the zither grew farther and farther away from me, and my head finally began to ache less. The guards successfully escorted me back to the Eastern Palace. I paced back and forth in the palace, anxiously awaiting news of the crown prince. Late at night, the crown prince has returned. He had suffered a minor sword wound. Seeing that he was unharmed, I embraced him and let out a soft sigh of relief. "My husband, it's good that you're safe." The crown prince's eyes reddened as he stared at the dried blood on his hands, choking back tears, whinnying, "My brother is dead," I exclaimed in shock. "What? Prince Yang is dead?" The crown prince's eyes revealed a look of sorrow. "He died protecting me." It turned out that the crown prince had lured away the Qin bird and encountered another wave of ambush. This time, the assassins used hidden weapons. When countless highly toxic hidden weapons shot toward the crown prince, Prince Yang threw himself forward and blocked them for him. 3 concealed weapons flew into Prince Yang's chest. He immediately spat blood and fell off the cliff. Another guard who was hit by a concealed weapon died from poisoning within half a quarter of an hour. Prince Yang was struck by 3 concealed weapons and fell into a bottomless abyss, leaving almost no chance of survival on the way back. I kept thinking about the meaning behind the emotions mixed in Prince Yang's glance when he looked back at me. I pondered it all the way but couldn't figure it out. Now I understand, it was a look of farewell if eyes could speak. Prince Yang was saying goodbye to me, so at that time, he was already prepared to risk his life to protect the crown prince. In his eyes, there was unwillingness, reluctance, but also a sense of resolve to face death with acceptance. I had underestimated the bond between the brothers. Although they had competed for a woman's affection, in a life-or-death situation, he was willing to die to protect his elder brother. My eyes reddened. It is often said that the imperial family is the most heartless, yet, to protect me, the crown prince risked his own safety to lure away the Qin bird. If Prince Yang had been a bit more selfish, he could have stood by and done nothing. Once the crown prince was assassinated, the position of crown prince would have been his, and I, the crown princess, would have become his possession. Yet he chose to protect the crown prince, falling off a cliff after being struck by a poisoned dart. I truly never expected him to leave in such a manner. Woo-woo, I really want to cry. The crown prince is even more heartbroken than I am. He shut himself in his study, weeping uncontrollably. "Brother, why were you so foolish?" The royal family dispatched a search and rescue team, nearly turning the mountains beneath the cliff upside down, yet they still could not find the body of Prince Yang. Only his belongings were recovered: a crabapple flower hairpin, stained with his blood. Prince Yang's guard handed the crabapple hairpin to me, choking back tears as he said, "Crown Princess, this crabapple hairpin was carved by Prince Yang himself over 7 days. That night, he had intended to present it to you at the palace, but in the end, he never had the chance to give it to you. It turned out that he stood beneath the crabapple blossoms that night to give me this crabapple hairpin, but he overheard my conversation with the crown prince. I personally said I wanted to forget that night with him. How miserable he must have been back then. He endured his love for me for 3 years. Finally won me over, yet in the end, he could only watch helplessly as I found joy in the arms of his elder brother, holding the crabapple hairpin. I couldn't help but shed tears. Outside the window, Little Green flew over and perched on a tree branch, carelessly saying, now that he's dead, you're sad. Ah, indeed. What you can't have is always the best, I said with annoyance. Are you here to comfort me or to kick me while I'm down? Xiaolu cleared her throat and began to speak. I have to say, Prince Yang is quite cunning. You were almost ready to let him go, but then he died in the crown prince's place. Now, not only can you not forget him, but even the crown prince feels indebted to his younger brother. Enough, actually, whether it was the crown prince or Prince Yang who died that day, either would have become a cinnabar mole on your heart. Cherish the person before you. The crown prince also risked his life to protect you, so don't let him down again. The cinnabar mole may be gone, but the white moonlight remains. After saying that, Little Green flew away. The emperor and empress refused to believe that Prince Yang was dead. The empress prayed and fasted every day, seeking blessings for Prince Yang. When I went to see her, I found her praying before the Buddha. I pray to the heavens to protect Yang and keep him alive. As long as he is alive, I, as his mother, will grant him whatever he desires. The emperor dispatched additional personnel to continue searching for the whereabouts of Prince Yang, stating that they must see him alive or his body dead. The forces behind the assassination attempt on the crown prince have been completely eradicated. Yet this matter is far more complex than we anticipated. The mastermind behind the assassination of the crown prince hails from the state of Yang. The emperor of Yang is critically ill, and it has yet to be determined who gave the orders. The musician was executed, and the songbird was also captured alive. Speaking of the lyrebird, it was originally imprisoned in an iron cage. One day, it suddenly began banging its head against the iron cage, emitting mournful cries. The crown prince and I happened to pass by and went to take a look. Who would have thought that the lyrebird actually spoke? It was a woman's voice. Please let me out. My sister is sick. I need to go save her. The lyrebird could actually speak human language. Could it be the soul of a wronged person inhabiting the lyrebird's body? Seeking to fulfill an unfulfilled wish, I asked, who are you, and what injustice have you suffered? Tell me in detail. The lute bird said, my name is Nyan Sushue. I was originally a lute player from the state of Yang. 3 years ago, when the empress was serving the emperor, she summoned me to the palace to play the lute for entertainment. My younger sister, Nyan Pinyang, has been frail since childhood. We have relied on each other for survival. I had intended to earn some silver in the palace to treat her illness, but who would have thought that the lute strings would break while I was playing? The emperor was so frightened that he became impotent, and thus ordered my skin to be flayed alive, made into a human skin lute to vent his anger. The state of Yang and the state of Zhai are neighboring countries, and the emperor passed away a few days ago. The queen ascended the throne with her young son, ruling from behind the curtain in the name of the Empress Dowager. The lyrebird continued, back then, when the strings of the zither suddenly snapped. It was no accident. The Empress Dowager had ordered someone to cut the strings halfway beforehand, deliberately luring me into her trap. She did this to frighten the emperor into impotence with the broken strings, ensuring that the only heir in the harem would be the one under her care. My death became the stepping stone for her rise to the position of Empress Dowager. I cannot accept this. For 3 years, my soul has refused to depart. My sister, overwhelmed by grief, has grown weaker by the day, yet she still seeks to avenge me. She practices the zither day and night, her fingertips stained with blood. How could she, alone, ever hope to overthrow the Empress Dowager? I cannot bear to watch her throw her life away for me. Please let me go. Let me help my sister seek revenge, for your great kindness. I will repay you 100-fold. This Qin master passed away 3 years ago, so she couldn't be the one who attempted to assassinate the crown prince. The crown prince and I exchanged a glance and decided to grant her wish. What we were granting was not the Qin bird, but the vengeful spirit that had taken refuge within its body. I opened the iron cage and personally released the lyrebird. Go, find your sister, and seek revenge. If you truly wish to repay us, take the opportunity to investigate the mastermind behind the assassination attempt on the crown prince in the state of Yang, and then bring us the news. By then, we might even be able to lend your sister a helping hand. Very well, I will not disappoint you. The lyrebird soared into the sky, looking down at the crown prince and me with eyes full of gratitude. The lyrebird's revenge, that is another story altogether. 3 months later, while I was dressing up, I opened the drawer and found that the crabapple hairpin was missing. I searched all over the Eastern Palace but could not find it. At night, the Crown Prince invited me to meet at the Stargazing Pavilion. I climbed up to the Stargazing Pavilion, pushed the door open, and saw the Crown Prince standing by the windowsill, facing the wind. This scene feels familiar. I vaguely thought it was Prince Yang returning. I walked forward, and that person turned around. He held a familiar crabapple hairpin in his hand, took a step forward, and placed it in my hair, whinnying, "I have finally waited for the day to personally place the crabapple hairpin in your hair." I was overjoyed. "Your Highness, Prince Yang, you're not dead." Xiaolu drifted over from the windowsill. I saved him. The spirit-carrying grass detoxified him. I felt genuinely happy. Xiaolu actually kept it a secret for 3 months. Footsteps sounded from behind. I turned around and saw the Crown Prince walking out from the shadows. It turned out the Crown Prince had known earlier than I did that Prince Yang was still alive. Today, he invited me to the Stargazing Pavilion, claiming it was a date, but in reality, it was to give me a surprise. The Emperor and Empress have also learned that Prince Yang is still alive, and they have already met with him. The Crown Prince looked at the crabapple hairpin in my hair and sincerely praised, "It looks truly beautiful." I felt the atmosphere was somewhat off and wanted to reach out to remove the crabapple hairpin. Unexpectedly, the Crown Prince held my hand, showing not a hint of jealousy. "There's no need to take it off, husband." I hesitated, words caught in my throat. Why do I have this feeling that the Crown Prince is about to sell me out? The Prince of Yang saved him. Could it be that he intends to offer me to the Prince of Yang in return? No wonder these past few days, I've noticed he seemed troubled. It turns out he's been torn between conflicting choices all along now. Has he made up his mind? Just as I was wondering, the Crown Prince leaned close to my ear and said, whinnying, "From now on, there will be no more Prince Yang in this world. I and Joyen will take turns being the Crown Prince," he added, "and will also take turns being your husband. You too." My face instantly flushed bright red. "You two brothers are certainly generous. Do father and mother know about such an absurd idea of yours?" The Crown Prince and Prince Yang said in unison, "We know." They have agreed. "As long as you nod, it can be done." I was still hesitating. Xiao Lu's voice drifted in from outside the window. "Hurry up and nod. The two of them are your destined fate." I was a bit confused, not understanding what Xiao Lu meant by that. Little Green kept me in suspense. "You'll find out when you fall asleep. This concerns your background and that of the two brothers." The Crown Prince and Prince Yang were still waiting for my reply. I nodded, my face flushed. Being cherished by two people is better than being cherished by one. They are all very good. So let me be greedy just this once. A gust of wind blew, extinguishing the candles in the Stargazing Pavilion. In the darkness, a large hand took mine and placed it in another palm. A shadowy figure left the Stargazing Pavilion, while the one who remained pulled me into an embrace. The starry sky twinkled, as if millions of fireflies were whispering. The flame ignited instantly in the darkness. That person coaxed me to call his name. I bit his shoulder and blurted out, "Ju," he gently asked. "Nine or Ju, don't get it wrong this time." With the experience from last time, I recognized him as Prince Yang. I whispered his name softly by his ear, "Ju Yang." The fireflies chirped. All night long I fell into a deep sleep, drifting into a dream. In the dream, I was a butterfly, drawn to a twin flower on a cliff. The twin flowers shared a single stem, yet bloomed as two separate blossoms. I flew over to gather nectar, lingering between the two flowers. It turns out, my true form is a swallowtail butterfly. The Crown Prince and the second prince are that twin flower. No wonder Little Green called me old friend the first time we met. It knew we were of the same kind. The mortal world is but a dream. Everything we are experiencing now is part of the cultivation journey of the swallowtail butterfly and the twin flower. Butterflies gather nectar from flowers, and flowers are visited by butterflies, both of which can enhance one's cultivation. 3 years later, the Crown Prince ascended the throne, and I was named the Empress. The outside world believed that Prince Yang had died, and it was Crown Prince Jai Juchi who succeeded to the throne. In reality, it was one Empress and two Emperors. The two of them take turns being the Emperor. each serving for 7 days before swapping roles. I am even busier than they are, handling a myriad of affairs every day as a swallowtail butterfly. I diligently gather nectar and tirelessly pollinate the 2 twin flowers. Afraid that I might go out and attract more bees and butterflies, try to lure me in with various tricks. We swallowtails are quite loyal too. Amidst a sea of flowers, I only gather from these 2. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. See you in the next video.